Like when they happened, I was like, oh shoot, okay, wait. What a shock. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Bound and Bookmarked. I'm Jaleesa. Today's video is a February wrap-up and I have some interesting reads here to talk about, so let's just get right into the video. I actually was able to read The Obsession by Sutanto in February. I don't know if stalking is like a trope or not, but this is a YA thriller. Let me just first say that I gave this book 2 stars. It had a lot of potential. I just think that because it was YA and that mixed with the writing itself made the story feel a little bit flat for me. A quick little description of the book. This book follows Delilah and Logan, and Delilah is immediately already like taken to Logan. He's handsome, he's charming, he's funny, but she quickly realizes that Logan has some very obsessive and controlling tendencies. However, Delilah is not without her own fault. She is harboring a very deep, dark secret, and it is pretty, I mean, it's pretty bad. It is. And Logan actually witnesses this event that happens, which turns into Delilah's biggest secret. And because he witnesses it, he catches it on camera actually, because he's stalking her. And he holds this secret over her, basically forcing her to date him. And this really just follows Delilah pretty much figuring out how to get out of the situation with Logan. And I can't really give you too much without giving away the entire story itself, but I can tell you why this book didn't reach at least 3 stars for me. Number 1, the writing itself really was underwhelming to me. I feel like everything was just very in your face. It was telling you more than it was showing you, and it lacked some depth, I think. And the writing wasn't horrible, it didn't pull me in like I think a book like this should. I will say in terms of the content itself and the stalking premise, I mean, it did its job. I do believe it was meant to be creepy, and I was very creeped out for the entirety of this book. The things that Logan was doing were just, whew. I was very concerned for Delilah. And Delilah too, she did some things in this book I was just like, wow, okay, this is a lot going on. And so it's a dual POV, and I do like that, especially when it comes to stalker type of books or thrillers, because I'd like to get in the head of both the stalker and the stalked. So that was interesting. I feel like this book wanted to be like the show You, and I feel like Logan was supposed to be like a miniature version of Joe, but it just was not executed as well. Also, if you want like a more in-depth review of this book and how I felt about it, I did a review on Goodreads. So as far as trigger warnings and content warnings are concerned, here child and domestic abuse, suicide, discussion of rape, drug use and overdose, murder and stalking. The next book that I read, which I'm not gonna give like a full synopsis just because it's the 4th book in the series, and I think most of you know what it's about. And that book is City of Fallen Angels by Cassandra Clare, the 4th book in the Mortal Instruments. Side note, Chain of Iron came out 2 days ago. I can't even read it. I have it. I mean, I guess I could read it. Well, no, I can't. I have Chain of Gold, so no, I can't. But I'm trying to read everything like in chronological order, so I'm trying to push through. And anyway, the point is, I gave this book 3 stars. It was fine. The City of Fallen Angels just follows everyone after the Mortal War is over, and Clary is now training to be a shadow hunter, which is really cool. I was happy to see that because I was getting tired of her like not knowing how to use her abilities, not really being a true Nephilim. Like, she's Nephilim by blood but not by nature. So it was nice to see her finally training again. However, the conflict in this book was very bland. We're seeing that the Downworlders are being murdered, like each species. So, you know, the vampire species, the werewolves, as well as what's the other one? I forgot. I don't even remember. But the point is, the Downworlders are being murdered, and they're kind of looking to the Shadow Hunters as being behind all of it. That part was like meh. I do know also that the end of this book is kind of what reeled me into like the story in general, because in the end we get to see Jace and Sebastian have some kind of like thing happen, and I was like, oh shoot, okay, wait, I was not expecting that. So I mean, a nice cool little ending or whatever. So I was able to read Take Me by Trinh. This book follows Cassie and Tom. Cassie and Tom work together and in this tech company, and they're really close friends, or great friends actually, but Cassie's married and Tom actually is in love with Cassie. He's been in love with her for quite some time now. One day Cassie and her husband have a discussion that started with him. He kind of asked her like, how would you feel about kind of like letting somebody into our marriage kind of thing? And she was just like, what? In a nutshell, like to summarize it really, Cassie and her husband decide to date other people while they're still married, of course, and to see if it will work. They'll do it for 6 months, and at the end of the 6-month trial, if they don't want to do it anymore, they will become monogamous again. So Cassie and Tom date, but I don't want to go too in depth in the story and give anything away because the book is out now. It came out on Valentine's Day, so if you haven't read it yet, you totally should. It really was really cute. I feel like it handled this topic so well, because we have Cassie, who this is her first time experimenting with the whole polyamory thing, and Tom, who has no idea what any of this really is, you know, what it's like, how it's going to end up. There's a plot twist in the end. I think this book did a really great job of showcasing how people can experiment with certain things in their life, but find themselves and kind of figure out, like, you know, what do I like now? Like, the things that I liked when I was 20, I'm gonna like at 30 or at 40. It was good. It was cute. I really enjoyed it. So yeah. So the next book that I read, and I did a reading vlog for it. Many of you have already watched it. If you haven't watched it, I will link it down below in the description box. And that is A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. I just want y'all to know that I tabbed this book up, okay, for a lot of reasons. It's about Nesta. Like, I don't have any other explanation aside from it's about Nesta after the war. So I gave this book 3.5 stars. I liked it. I did. The writing was fine. Her writing is, of course, her writing is good. Like, Sarah J. Maas is really talented. She's a great writer, so I will give her that. This book really just primarily follows Nesta after the war and watching her go through this emotional journey and kind of identifying what it is exactly that's causing her to act the way that she acts in this story. You know, Nesta has to overcome the fact that she's now a high fae, the very thing that she hates. She literally watched her dad die in front of her, you know, be killed in front of her, and she didn't do anything about it. She couldn't. She also felt like she didn't protect her sister. So it's a lot of different emotions going through Nesta at the moment, and she's having to work through them. It's very difficult for her. And a lot of this, I feel like, is kind of talking about PTSD, depression, anxiety, a bunch of different things in terms of mental health that we're watching Nesta navigate through in this entire book. It's not pretty. Like, this book is not pretty, and that's fine. I will say most people think I hate this book because I hated Nesta in the beginning. I didn't hate the book because I hated Nesta. Not at all. I didn't like Nesta in the beginning because, again, if you watch my vlog, I'm the complete opposite of Nesta in terms of how I deal with trauma and how I deal with other people while I'm going through my trauma. And so I also know what it's like to be the person on the receiving end of Nesta's behavior. So it was very difficult to read this book for most of it. However, I did objectively look at the book at the end. I loved her journey. It wasn't pretty, and that's beautiful in and of itself. She found her own friendships, her own home, her own place in Valeris, and she had a breakthrough in many different ways, and it was nice to read. I mean, it's not always easy to read a character like hers, but I do appreciate an author who can write a character like that. Her journey was a 5-star, like, truly. The end of this book was a 5-star. This pacing in this book was not it for me. It kind of reminded me of this whole stream of consciousness thing, when you're like just kind of going through the motions with the character and you're just in their head and like nothing else around you is happening. This book lacked the plot, and I talked about this to my blog as well. It's very clear here that the purpose of this book is not the plot. It is definitely Nesta's journey, and because of that, the plot definitely took a back seat in this book. But for me, because the plot that was there, that was presented to us, had so much potential, I wanted her to just kind of give us a little bit more, and we didn't get that. And I was so disappointed because there were so many moments in this book I feel like Nesta could have capitalized on her ability and what she has been learning in this book, and it didn't happen. It didn't have any trigger warnings. There are some things in here that I feel like people should have been aware of. So I'm gonna tell y'all what they are now. Once again, it's like a little reminder: sexual assault, rape, abuse, substance abuse, difficult pregnancy, and suicide ideation. So some heavy topics in here that nobody warned anybody about. There you go. In Sarah J. Maas fashion, we're gonna keep it going. A Court of Frost and Starlight. I gave it 2 stars. In a nutshell, this book literally is just a depiction of how they celebrate the winter solstice in Valeris. That's like it. Let's just talk about the writing style first, because that's like the main thing for me, aside from me being bored the whole time. The writing in this book felt very whimsical. It didn't feel like I was reading a book that was a part of Akotar at all in any way. None of it felt familiar. Some people love this novella. I didn't. I do find it nice that she wanted to show us how they, you know, celebrate as a family, because the winter solstice is a big deal in the Night Court, and I love that. I just didn't feel like this needed to be done. I'm trying to figure out like what else to say. The last book that I read in February that I actually really thoroughly enjoyed, and that is 14 Ways to Die by Vincent Ralph. This is actually an arc. This book does not come out until June 2021, so you have a few more months. This book follows this girl, Jessica Simmons. She's 17 years old. However, 10 years ago, her mom was murdered by this guy named the Magpie Man. The Magpie Man actually is a serial killer. He has killed, I believe, 13 other women after her mom was killed. She actually applies for this opportunity to be on this reality TV show, and this show pretty much is going to be showcasing 5 teenagers who have all really interesting backgrounds, and pretty much each of those teenagers will have one day of the week assigned to them. And so, for example, Jessica's day becomes Monday, and on Mondays her entire day for the full 24 hours is shown on live TV, streaming, all that kind of good stuff on YouTube, and her life is being pretty much publicized, including her social media accounts, including her text messages. So nothing is really private on your day of the week. Her entire reasoning for applying for this show was simply to see if she can attract the Magpie Man once and for all and get him locked away for good. So she does end up getting these really weird messages from this person who she believes is the Magpie Man, who's hunting her down to kill her and to finish off the job. This book was actually really surprising. This is a YA novel, so I'm always really nervous to go into like YA thrillers, because of course when you start talking about murder and stalking and stuff, like, it's a really weird thing. Obviously it happens to everyone, well, not everyone, but it happens to people of all ages. I was really weary to go into the story, but I was pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed this book. I actually read this book for my 24-hour readathon, and I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. I was like, yo, what is happening? There were so many twists in this book that I feel like were done so elegantly. Like, when they happened, I was like, oh shoot, okay, wait. What a shock. The pacing of this book was perfect. I don't want to get bored. I don't want to ever feel sedentary in a story, and I never felt like I was sitting still in this book. It was a constant movement, and I loved the pacing. Like, it could not have been better. It even showcased how difficult that was for her father to watch his daughter go on this TV show where it's showing her whole life to the world. And I love that her dad was a part of this book, because so many times and YA books, parents just don't even exist. In this book, he was present, and I love the ending of the story. It was literally, now, it's not 5 stars. I gave it 4 stars. The reason is because I feel like this book has so much potential when it came to social media and how they incorporated it in the story. Yes, we do hear mentions of, like, you know, she's live right now, she's live streaming, she's recording, but I feel like it should have went a little bit deeper into like YouTube and her when she was live, go deeper into the messaging, go deeper into her phone. I wanted to see more moments of her in like the technological area of her life. I don't feel like it was the forefront, and I feel like it should have been, since that was kind of the whole point of the story, and I feel like that really took the book down a notch. So I will say in this book though, there are some trigger warnings in here, 3 of them: suicide ideation and discussion of suicide, and then you have gun violence here, and you also have murder. So yeah, but overall a very solid book. That is all for today, everyone. Those are all the books that I read in February. I feel pretty accomplished. I feel like it was an okay month. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and I will see y'all in my next video. Goodbye.